Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Here. Here. Here.
We have a quorum. The first item on the agenda is discussions. Bonding finance plan for Junius and Shoreview projects. And Bill Sommore will give us some information regarding that and the recommendation to the council to move forward with the bond finance plan.
Good
Over to Bill.
morning. Thank you, Your Honor, City Council. In your packet, we have a memo drafted by Baker Tilly, and we have Michaela Hewitt here with as well. She's going to present on some of the results of the proposals. Just a little reminder of what we're financing. It is the Junius and the Shoreview project. Both of those projects are specially assessed. We've already went through that process for Minnesota Statute 429, so those assessments are in place. This is the financing to pay for those projects. And we did receive some prepayments on assessments, so when people got those initial bills, if they wanted to pay without interest, they could do that by June 30th. A number have done that. Of course, we're not financing that portion. That cash will go directly to the project. So this is financing the balance of the city portion and the balance of those supported by assessments that will come in over the next 15 years. We did send out for proposals to numerous pretty much all the local banks, even a credit union that had asked to be included at one time, and then some regional banks as well. And Michaela will talk about that a little bit. We did receive quotes back from 3 of those banks, and that is what is summarized in your memo. And we have a summary of that up on the screen. So Michaela, should I let you walk through a bit first? And I can talk about the assessments a little bit more when we get into an option we may want to select.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. To follow up on what Bill had shared, we did send the, I believe at our last Committee of the Whole meeting, we did provide a summary of what the proposed terms of the financing for the 2025 bonds would be. We did submit the request out to many banks, both local and national. We did receive a total of 8 responses back from 3 different banks. Bell Bank, Huntington, and Gate City all responded and provided what their financing terms would be. We did request both 10 and 15-year terms within the for the responses. And so what we did get is within those 8 responses, we got both 10 and 15-year terms, which would reflect alternate or different variations on if calling the bonds, prepaying them would be an option, what the interest rate would be, as well as if the interest rates would be fixed or variable. Within those 8, or from those 8 options that were provided, the lowest bid and what would be perceived as most feasible when doing the analysis and comparing the total cost, the interest, what the levy impact to the city would be. The most favorable option would be what was proposed from Gate City for a 10-year non-callable fixed rate financing option with a 4% interest rate. And the structure of the financing, and you'll see it up here, that is the second to the right, as the Gate City 10-year non-callable, 10-year term. Total interest payments are estimated to be $176,000. Average annual levy is about $58,000, and that does include kind of a reimbursement of the assessments over the last 4 years, and so that would be sized up to reduce that levy. And so again, that is the lowest, most favorable bid that the city did receive of the 8 options. And I guess the recommendation, if the council chose to proceed, would be to accept that term. The actual award of the bonds, if you choose to proceed, would be at your August 4th council meeting. And then if those bonds were awarded, we're looking at a closing date of August 28th. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have, or turn it back.
I'll talk through that structure of the assessments a little bit. So we have a term on the assessments of 15 years. We normally always match the bond repayment term with that assessment term. Now, this being a smaller bond at $716,000, And when we received that proposal of 10-year at 4% fixed rate, certainly that is the lowest cost. When we look at the total levy over the life, then is $585,000. You can see how that compares to the others, and that being the lowest. So we kind of wanted to find a way, how can we accept that lowest cost for the city? And what that would mean is, of course, we're going to receive assessments over 15 years. We're going to pay the bonds over 10. So we'll receive assessments 5 years after after we've paid off the bonds. So what that means is what I'd like to do is move about $9,400 a year from our PIR fund, transfer it in to cover the assessments of those last 5 years. So that we're not levying for those, the last 5 years basically in that 10. I may be getting a little confusing there when I'm saying that, but since we're going to receive that at the end, those last 5 years, I want to pull it from another fund over those 10 years, about $9,400 a year, and in essence, that fund will get paid back in the last 5 then. Because we have a cash balance in that other fund. It's our general PIR fund with leftover assessments from other projects. And that's how a PIR fund is supposed to work. It's a permanent improvement revolving fund that it revolves so that you can do projects in and out of it. You have to use those funds for Minnesota Statute 429 projects, which this is. So that's what makes it allowable to pull that over. So in essence, that, makes that levy be $58,500. Instead, it would be up in the $60,000 something, of course, well, another $9,400 on top of that. So that was in an effort to bring that down. When we put in the estimate for these bonds at the 15 years, we were looking at a levy of $51,400 is what we currently have in the proposed budget. So this would be a little higher than that, but you can see over the life of it actually cutting the cost down on it. So any questions on that? I hope I've explained that, but.
No, you did, Your Honor. Bill, you did great. The question I have is we come up with 8 proposals, but they're only from 3 banks.
Correct.
Why are we lacking getting more interest in it? Is it just people,
Maybe
they
you
just
wanna-
haven't been engaged before, they don't think they can get it? Why do we not have 10 banks looking at this, I guess?
You probably are, Michaela can speak to that.
The question on the response level, I think there's in part a few different things. I think a couple of the responses were if you don't have a prior relationship with the institution, a couple of them had responded and said, so sometimes it's the size, the scale of the project. We wanted to give more flexibility for the city. Initially, we were looking at, as Bill said, a 15-year term. Several of the banks, as you can see, there's a premium for being a 15-year term, so some of them were more favorable for a shorter term. The size of the financing and then the overall relationship with the city were all some of the factors that we had. Some were no responses, some were thanks, we're interested with the size, some were thanks, we don't have a relationship. And so that's a variation of the responses. But I think, overall, I think we were pleased with the responses. We have had prior, in other instances, we might get only one bid. So I think the fact that we had 8 options was favorable for the city for this financing.
Okay, good. When they look at the size, are they saying it's just too small, they don't want to waste their time with it? Is that what they're looking at?
I think part of it is in their portfolio, what they're, like I said, we didn't follow up with the non-responders to see exactly why they didn't, so we don't have that information as far as what their interest level is. We did, like we said, have a mix of both local and more national banks. Sometimes it could just be the timing for the issuance as well in their overall response time.
I think the thing I'm happy with is that there at least is some connection. You're talking with them. You went out to other people. There was a response back. I just was looking. The more that we can see, the more they get a look at it, the more options we have for the betterment of the city. So I appreciate it.
Any other questions, Michaela?
I will bring up one other thing. We talked about this in Tax Levy Committee a bit last week because we had just received the proposals. And I know, so this is probably where you were going to go, Mr. Layton.
Eventually.
The question came up there of should we issue this now, or should we roll it in with a bigger project next year? Now, we could do that. And like Michaela said, these rates are favorable. These are good rates, and locking it in for 10-year is probably a good option. You do have the option. We certainly are going to come back with you with other street projects next year. They are going to be larger, but then, you know, what we do is we wind up carrying these costs and we defer this levy, and it's that much higher next year when we do. So that would be part of my recommendation of maybe we should go forward and just get this done and get that levy going on that. But that's something for you to discuss too, because I know you brought that up last week. But
Yes, thank you, Bill. Michaela, thank you. Right now, your cash is earning what?
you know, anywhere between 2 and 5, depending on the portion of the portfolio.
We have, our fund's earning 2, we want to go out and now spend 4. I'm going to go back.
And our
to-
local, what we keep more in the liquid, the 4M fund, has been between the 4 and the 5%,
Yeah.
so,
So we're basically trading dollars.
yeah.
And do I understand this correctly, that under Gate City, the second to the last column, their total fees is $32,500?
That's not Gate City fees, that's our bond issue cost. So Baker Tilly working on this, you already have around 16,000 into this that we're gonna owe whether we do the financing today or next year, so that's work they put in. And then bond attorney fees as well, will be in that as
I
well.
understand. I truly believe that interest rates are going to be lower next year. I don't have a crystal ball. Number 2, I think in efforts to save additional fees this year, we have cash that we could, we're only earning 2 on, so why do we want to pay 4? We're earning 4, why do we want to pay 4? We have the cash. I would ask this council's appetite to, delay this local bank bonding and wait for a larger project. And then at that point, with a larger project, it wouldn't be a 10-year item, it could be a 20 or a 30-year project.
It'd be a 15-year is what we
15-year,
would do
okay.
next year with a larger, because then on a larger project, we're gonna match those assessments because we need those assessments to help pay the bonds.
I just think we're trading dollars. I think rates are going to fall again, and I would rather go to the market, if you will, with a bond of a larger size. Just my point of view.
Question, if we wait until next year, we would be taking the whole chunk, not pulling that 9 out of that revolving fund, so the levy in essence would actually be somewhat higher, the impact? Is that accurate, or am I misunderstanding?
It could be. We could still pull some funds, and what we would probably do is, on a larger project, we would look, would we just take some funds and infuse it into the project to reduce the city size at that time? So, I mean, it would all kind of work out in the wash, because we evaluate that fund and how much can we put towards projects. I know, was it both on Summit, Linden, Laurel, and Stanton? We infused some of those funds to that. We maybe have around, 700,000 available in that fund right now, but, we use that towards street projects. Again, they have to be 429 projects.
Bill, thank you. You're talking about your PRI fund.
Yep.
Roughly how much money's in that?
Maybe $700,000 to $800,000 in that right now. I know some of it is reserved out for finishing up some projects. So when I balance them out, we'll look what we're taking, but probably 700,000. And I look at uses of that over the coming years. In working with engineering, we apply that again towards projects when we need a funding, inserted into that project.
So basically, we've got our own cash now, if you will, spent on this project. And we have assessments earning what?
I don't think we've spent.
We haven't
This is
spent
only
it.
just started
Well,
in Shoreview, so we haven't spent
right.
any
I'm
money.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we,
Logistically, I'm going, we've got money in the bank, and you're going to assess these people at a
So-
what kind of rate?
so it's 2% above the bond rate. I'd have to look what we did, if it was 5 or 5.2 right in there, because we do 2% above our borrowing rate. What, in essence, we would do, we would carry this in the capital project. We have funds as the city, but we don't have funds in the capital project fund for this. So we do need to fund them, the two projects. We would, in essence, carry it as a deficit balance till we financed again. So, again, it's all on what you think interest rates will do in a year. Of course, like you said, we don't have a crystal ball, so
We do not.
right.
So I mean, I think the other piece then would be like, what projects are we looking at doing next year, and what sort of or
Right.
how much is that going to be?
And we're gonna,
Because if we don't do a project next year and we don't have a bond, then
right.
we're set carrying this debt.
So Kyle, should I touch briefly on what we may think for next year? So Kyle and his crew is working through the street projects, updating all the estimates. We all kind of know what those big projects are. We're looking at Cavour, Cleveland, Union, the 7th area. Cavour probably being one of the first ones, top priority to get done, right downtown here. So letting the cat out of the bag there, we're going to be coming back to you and telling you that's probably priority number one. Well, you'll probably talk about that here in a later agenda item even this morning. So, but, you know, that's going to be the whole project, $2-3 million maybe. So, like you said, if you decide not to do a project in 2026, well, then we're even carrying this longer. Then I would say, definitely let's get this done now, because the cones went up. We're ready, you know, they're going to be tearing pavement up and starting to work on that one.
We have a lot of, Your Honor, we have a lot of options here. If we do a larger bond next year, we can, if you will, include this.
Correct.
If we did not do a bond, we could take this back to the banks then.
We could. You're correct.
So if
we would just incur more fees then, because we went through the process thus
yeah,
far.
we're halfway. I look at it as a business. I got 2% in my checking account, and I can spend that 2% and earn 5 on an assessment. I'm earning 3% more than what I was getting. So for 1 year, I would strongly believe that if we have cash available and the assessments are going to be at 4.5%, 5.5%, whatever percent, you would be, in essence, investing for a 3 or 4% margin versus a 2% margin.
And I probably misspoke with the 2 something. We're up more. I mean, I'm thinking of our 4M fund
But you get
between
the-
4 and 5%. but
It's a conceptual.
sure.
I appreciate everyone's work on this, and Michaela. But at this point, if we have cash, we have projects scheduled for next year, that this be tabled or not approved, and we move forward with bonding next year. Thank you.
Jim?
Either way we do it, we're going to owe $16,000 this year, right?
Correct.
I just think, I know where Mr. Layton's coming from, but I don't want to see our cash fund go away, because then we can't use it down the road, you know, between now and next year, because it's all gone.
And
And-
I'm not going to take it out of that,
Okay, you
out of the
wouldn't, okay.
PIR fund. In essence, we're going to run into the deficit, and we've done this before. I mean, as we carry project costs over like a couple years and then bond. So it's not unusual, but yeah, I'm not going to bleed that
Okay,
fund
okay.
down for this.
The other thing is, you know, if we do the project this year, it's a little bit of an increase to our tax levy. Next year, it's going to be a big increase. You know, I think it's easier for the taxpayer to take a little bit at each time instead of taking it all in one shot. We've done this before. We're looking at probably saving maybe 1% or maybe 0.5%. I don't think, what's the lowest we've ever had in the last couple of years? It hasn't been.
Rates down in the 3s, maybe, I
Yeah,
think.
so
Yeah, over the last couple years.
I don't think that, I'm all forward, or want to move forward with this and get the bond going. And with that, I will make a motion to move this forward.
Right, thank you. We have a motion to move this forward. Does somebody second it?
I'll second it.
Okay. Jim or Scott, second it.
Your Honor, Mr. Rachels, how do you figure this would be increasing to the bond if we're going to go from a 10-year project to a 15-year project?
Not increasing the bond, increasing our tax levy this year. We'll increase it by doing whatever we do with this project. But next year, it'll be a huger increase instead of, you know, we're going to take steps. We're going to increase this levy because of what we're doing in projects. It's going to be an increase. I don't know how much it's going to be, but it's going to be an increase this year. Or we don't have an increase if we don't do it. But next year, it's going to be a bigger increase than it would be if we would have done it this year. Right? Is I'm not mistaken?
You're stepping it in essence.
Yes, steps. I mean, we're going to pay it no matter what. Yes, we could save 1%. I'm not arguing that. And what is it? If you did 4% a year, is 28 grand, something like that. You know, so drop that down a little bit.
I haven't done the math, but if you were to amortize this a balance plus next year's and combine them together, have you done the math? as to
Then
what
you
the
could, yeah,
assessment
you would, if you had 3% next year, yes, you could make it down in a hope. But I think we just move ahead and we're kind of stepping over. I like to see those small increases. It's a lot easier than doing a big increase, I believe.
Did the tax?
No one has proven that to me. I'm sorry.
And you can't prove it to me what you want to do either.
Well, you give me
So-
5 minutes and I
No,
will.
I'm just,
Your Honor,
Anyway,
did,
you had something?
did the tax levy committee come back with a recommendation? I mean, Laura, did you guys come to a decision on what you preferred?
No, we did not. We just discussed pretty much what we discussed here and said that we need to bring this to the council.
Right, we have a motion. Need to keep moving. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, same sign.
Aye.
The motion is approved. It will go to the, everybody good on the consent agenda for this item? Hearing no response, then yes. The next item on the agenda is memorandum of understanding with M-State. Call upon Connor West, the recommendation to the council to approve and authorize signatures on the MOU with M-State regarding sexual assault victims on campus. Over to Connor. Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor, council members, city staff. Here to present the memorandum of understanding, the MOU, that we'd like to enter in with M-State, Fergus Falls. Previously, this memorandum had been signed in 2016. I received an email and phone call a couple weeks ago from a representative with the college asking for it to be updated. My understanding is in the past, they're the ones that present the MOU to the city, and that just had lapsed, and so they reached out and wanted to update the signatures and the dates of the MOU. Basically, the MOU is the city or the police department entering in with M-State to work together to provide data related to sexual assaults or crimes that occur on the campus, and we already do that. They reach out during the school session to obtain information related to crimes that occur on the campus or involving students of the campus. So we're already working together to meet the statutory requirements. They just wanted to update that MOU to be in compliance with state statute.
I'll offer that motion.
Thank you, Laurel. Would somebody care to second it?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Laura. Any questions of Connor? I think the only thing I would say is it says obviously about training. Do our staff already receive training in, through another avenue or vehicle than
So
is described in the MOU?
Yeah, in years past, since a new advocate with the college started a couple years ago, I've had contact with her. We talk if there is a crime that occurs on the campus. We're in communication. Lieutenant Miller would be in communication. Last year we had an incident at the school where there was a threat. Immediate communication was started with them. So we do have a line of communication, and in the training, our officers will be made aware of the MOU and the requests from the college for that communication if there is a crime that's committed on the campus.
Right. Thank you, Connor. Mike, you got the question?
Thank you, Lieutenant West, for your service to the city. I appreciate it very much. Does the city, Fergus Falls Police has the jurisdiction of that college? There's no other entities that have a jurisdiction over that college, such as state police or state anything. It's a city entity, right?
Correct.
Okay. So when if that college all of a sudden changed its dynamics and it was more like a UND or an NDSU and had its own police force or an own type of investigator or different things, would this MOU change? Would we have to come back and do that? Or is this in place so entities like you have the ability to work with them, even though they have their own police force if it changed?
Yeah, so to answer your question, they do not have their own police department, so we are the primary law enforcement agency for the college campus. If they were to have their own police department, such as the U of M, that department then would provide the police service on the campus. And then I can only assume that there would be some type of mutual aid agreement between that department and then our department. But to my knowledge, there's no thoughts of having their own police department.
Scott?
It seems to me that this isn't going to change how you would respond to any crime. I mean, the investigation, the efforts that the police department would make to respond to anything is going to be the same whether this MOU existed or not. And it appears that this is only happening, we're only dealing with it because the legislature has required it. It's a state mandate.
Correct. So the college has to, they drafted this, presented it to us. I submitted it to the city attorney for review and then presented it this morning. But yes, our response is not going to change to an alleged crime that takes place on the campus. What this does, again, is allows us to communicate between administrative staff at the college and investigative officers to provide data to help with their tracking of crimes that occur on the campus.
Yeah. And that's where I guess I see the legislature apparently was, what they were after with this is to collect data, is to get information, you know, about what's happening and force that collection of information through this method, in effect.
I think that's part of it. I also think it's part of it, my understanding would be for the safety of the students and staff, that there's notification in a timely manner if there's a crime or a perceived crime that's going to occur on the campus, that the police department has these contacts in place with the college, or the college has the contacts in place with the city to make notifications if there, again, has been a crime or there's an alleged crime that's going to take place. We have those lines of communication already in place. So I think it is the data-driven, but also to make those contacts with the college staff.
That all seems positive and worthwhile.
Right. Thank you, Colin. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, same sign. Motion is approved. Everybody good with the consent agenda for that item?
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is regarding PI 5855, Lincoln Avenue alleys and parking lot reconstruction. We call upon City Engineer Kyle Meyer. The recommendation to the council to approve the plans and specifications and authorize interstate engineering to advertise for bids for PI 5855. Over to Kyle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I have received plans and specifications from Interstate Engineering for this project. I have done my review and approved the plans. Today, we would like to formally approve plans and specifications and authorize advertisement for bids. Just to give you a little update, the project is doing the alleyways between Lincoln Avenue and Cavour, and from Union Street to Cascade. The project will include paving the alleyways along with replacing some storm sewer within the alleyways as well as the inlets within the alleyways. Those utilities, that storm sewer utilities, have been reviewed and are in poor shape. That's why they're being included with this project. So the reason for the project, the project started due to the work that the utility companies were doing in those alleyways. Those alleyways have been torn up from the utility companies because of replacing some of their utilities. So this project will pave that and then replace some of our storm sewer within the project. Also included in the project are 3 parking lots to be paved. And the way this is being set up is that they're going to be bid as alternates. So once we get as-bid prices, we would be able to make a decision based on the cost of construction if we want to move forward with those projects. In the packet, I've included what the engineer's estimate is for the base bid. The base bid is $280,000. That includes doing the storm sewer work as well as paving the alleyways. And then the three alternates for the parking lots would be at $272,000. I will touch a little bit on, or I'll touch on the total cost of the project. Bill and I sat down and went through all of the project costs just to give you that information as well. So if we were to just do the alleyways, the total project cost would be about $385,000. And then if we did the alleyways, that would be an additional $293,000. And the way that would be funded on the alleyways, the 385, we're getting $72,000 from the utility companies. That's what they've talked about paying towards the project. That would come from them. Then there's a fund, and Bill, you'll have to touch on that. $219,500 out of a city fund, and then we would look at $93,500 coming from MSA.
And one more, we will pull out the cost, we'll look at what the storm sewer is. So when we get this back, and we'll look at what we would potentially take from the stormwater fund as well.
Sure.
Into this mix, so.
Okay. And then if we do the parking lots, that additional 293 would come from 224,300. We have money set aside to do the parking lots, and then we would have to take another $68,700 coming from another fund or from that MSA funding. Okay.
Can I ask a quick question on that? That offset that we could get from storm and water, will that reduce possibly by that 68, or how much are you estimating? Sorry, I'm just wondering if we can offset that with the storm water fund.
We probably would, when
Okay.
we look at that. It depends what you choose to do as a council between the two of them, because whether you do parking lots or not, we will look at the stormwater fund and see what portion that is. As far as that other internal fund of the city that's cash, I had brought this up when we initially talked about this. So we've received dividends on our insurance through the League of Minnesota Cities, and I've set those aside over in a separate contingency fund, which the fund dates back decades. And I know a number of years ago we used the funds out of there and basically moved them all to the general fund. And this is the last 3 or 4 years of insurance dividends coming in. Now, last year we were expecting kind of a larger increase. We actually wound up with a decrease. So you could use it to step in a large insurance increase. That's what those funds could be for. But we want to be careful with that as well, because those would be one-time dollars, and insurance goes on and on. It's a continual expense. So that's why I thought, would we want to use this for a one-time project, something like that? Because they're in essence general funds. So you as a city council could decide, yeah, we can move those towards pavement here. So that's why that's an option. So
At this point, are we kind of like complicating this in the sense that, the ask today is to get a bid. We're making all these assumptions about financing, and we don't know what we're actually financing.
Correct.
And we've thrown out a lot of numbers of here and there, which is confusing. And I would say we stick to the agenda, which was go for the bids or not go for the bids. And then when we have the bids, we can then decide how we're going to finance it. And then all these different funds and the movings left and right and the ins and outs, I think would be clearer when we know exactly what we're funding or not funding. That's my personal opinion.
But in Bill's defense, I'm glad he gives these numbers out for us to think about this
Exactly.
over the next 3 to 4 weeks before we come back to us.
Yep.
Exactly right. That's very,
Yep. It's very helpful.
But I think it would be nice if we're going to throw numbers out like that to actually have them written down so that we're not kind of getting confused. But We're easily, or some of us are easily confused. So,
Your Honor, I agree with you considerably. I think you had a little information on Cavour Avenue. I'd like to know what you can speak about, both of you, with Cavour Avenue as we go forward with deciding whether we do these parking lots or not do these parking lots.
Sure, I can touch on that. So we're currently looking at all of the needs within the city, looking at planning out a capital improvement plan. Cavour is one of those that we've looked at, and as of today, is very high priority from the engineering standpoint. We feel that Cavour is an area in town that obviously, if you've driven down it, needs a lot of work. So, but there's also other areas in town that are in the same type of situation. But Cavour is an area that is used by the entire community. It's one of the areas, if we were to fix up Cavour, would really encapsulate the downtown area now, where we've fixed up the whole area. So that today is very high on our priority list for looking at future projects. I would say even today it's probably the number one.
I appreciate that. Can you tell me what that means in time frame then? Number one, does that mean that we'll tar Cavour next week, next year,
So
2029?
Yep. So we would push for propose to do that construction work next year. We would push for it to be a 2026 project.
Your Honor. You could, and you'll bring that back to us probably in December, or if we decide to move
Sooner than that.
Probably even sooner than that.
Yep,
Great, yes.
Yep,
great.
very soon.
Good.
We're to the point, we've updated all the cost estimates that we've looked at through the CIP plan. We're working with Bill and the team on how we're going to put this into the budget and then bring that to you guys to talk about.
And then a follow-up, you'll know more about when you get the bids back on Junius then too? Do we have the bids back on Junius? Are they here?
Yeah,
So you know,
we know
you're using those,
Junius.
you know what that cost is gonna be, so that'll kind of help you with the cost on Cavour.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't,
Laura?
Are we looking, when we do the parking lots, if we do the parking lots, are we looking at the things that have been raised in the past, or in the past as issues, as, are we getting the max parking layout that we can get out of it? Electrical up back there, possibly food trucks, things like that, planters, lighting. I mean, like, are we looking at this from a holistic perspective to deal with all those issues? I don't want to put a Band-Aid on something that we could have spent, not that we want to spend extra, but could incrementally help the situation, make sure we're doing it right if we end up doing it.
The project as it is right now is to pave those parking lots.
Okay.
And essentially the planters that are out there today would be left in place and we'd still utilize those, but there's nothing in here for doing any electrical work.
Your Honor, I make a motion that we go for a bid on the alley only. Thank you.
Do we have a second for that?
can I ask for clarification on it?
Yep.
Does that mean you want to bid on no alternates? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
But you can turn down those alternates if you receive them.
Once the avalanche starts, you can't push it back up the hill. We have to, Andrew, go ahead.
I was just saying, we've paid to have those designed at this point, and bidding them isn't any extra cost, right, including those in the bid?
Correct. Yeah, to relay, those are all included in the bidding package already, so to bid them at this point in time would not increase any costs.
Do we have a second? The motion fails for lack of second. Would somebody care to make a motion?
I'll make the motion and move ahead with that.
Thank you, Scott. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Scott. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, same sign.
Aye.
The motion is approved. Everybody good with consent agenda?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is an update on the Planning Commission interim use permit for 112 East Washington, and I'll call upon Clara Beck.
Thank
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor and council members. The Planning Commission held a regular meeting on Monday at which they heard a case that might seem familiar. We have looked at this address before for an interim use permit. The request is for a similar use or the same use, which would be cannabis retail. You have previously approved an IUP for this location, so the conversation at Planning Commission was fairly quick. There was one speaker at the during the public hearing portion of the meeting, which was Councilmember Layton, and the Planning Commission received one letter from the public, which is in your packets. You do have hard copies of the materials on your desks from the Monday meeting. The Planning Commission found that all of the necessary items for a conditional use permit were met, which is how we go forward with an interim use. The difference with a conditional use and an interim use is that the interim use has that 5-year time frame. So Planning Commission, after reviewing the facts and hearing from the public during the public hearing, have recommended that the City Council approve the interim use permit with the following conditions. Again, 5-year time frame for the interim use. The business hours are limited from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. There is no consumption allowed on site, and that is including sampling. And for this specific location, because there are apartments above it,
Sorry.
the property owner must obtain and retain written acknowledgement from each residential tenant stating they have been informed of the business use permitted under the interim use permit, and that copies of that acknowledgement must be made available to the city upon request. And the building owner has agreed to that. And I believe already has some signatures on hand should any council members wish to see them before Monday. But that is the discussion that was had at the Planning Commission level, and now it's back in front of the council for final approval.
Yeah, so this will be on Monday evening's agenda. So then obviously on Monday we can have a full discussion, but this was to give everybody the update on that item. So,
and I can answer any questions that anybody might have about the interim use process or anything that you might want to have before Monday.
so with that, I think it would be good to move into this cannabis registration process, because I've had a lot of calls about this, and I think that one of the biggest things is I think there's a confusion out there in this whole kind of arena of cannabis and how it sits. And, as from my kind of knowledge, it seems like there's 3 trains on the track. There's one train that is the state Office of Cannabis Management process, and that's kind of a high level. And then within local government, because we've obviously elected to do what we're doing, we have kind of 2 tracks. We've got a track that is facilities, and then we have a track that's operating. And occasionally these things kind of seem to want to cross each other, and they've got to touch each other. And there's a sequence of time that all this has to relate to. And the state changed the rules, as they have done on more than one occasion, and they've actually updated their flow chart on this and how it operates. And so with assistance from Clara, I got it printed off, and and this is obviously, to date, where it's stop obviously is top left-hand corner, and it goes around. And I think, on the right-hand side, there was 2 tracks within the state equally to go down, step 2A or step 2B. One was an uncapped license approval, and one was capped license approval. And one was a lottery, and one was not. So 2B is a lottery process, and it's my understanding at this point in time that Sugar High applied through step 2A and has got to the point whereby you are now a preliminary approved applicant. Would that be correct? Yes. Elevate chose the 2B route, and they have gone through 2 lotteries, and I haven't got hold of Chris, and I will do by Monday, to see whether they were successful in the last lottery. So he is still kind of in that block, of not necessarily being approved. So now, obviously, having got their preliminary approval, Sugar High can move to step 3, which is looking at finalizing their plans and specifications for their building. So ultimately, it then has even more steps to go through. They have to submit those plans to the state. The state obviously will, give them their blessing. The state will come out and actually make physical inspections. And there's obviously multiple steps for them to go to before they get to step 4, which is the pre-license inspection. And then they have another step to get to license issuance. And we equally, at the same time, have also a process to go through to approve the license or potential license holders. So in essence, we could have 10 interim use permit holders as a city, but within our ordinance, and we only said we're obligated to give 1 license out because we're greater than 12,500 people. And, the language that we put in there was that, the city shall issue at least 1 registration for a cannabis retail business and may issue up to 2. So each applicant then has to come back to this body with their application, and then this body will decide whom they are going to issue a license to. And we're obligated to give 1, and we said we would give up to 2. And so that's kind of, a layman's summary that as best as I can understand without any changes as to where we're actually at in this process. And we're now at that point, and I can hand it back over to Clara to go through this whole cannabis selection process and receiving applications for people that want to go to that next step. So, thank you.
Your Honor, thank you. Maybe Commissioner Sullivan can help us. Am I under correct understanding that the county can only give 6 out?
No, that you can give any amount out. You're
At the county level.
obligated to give a minimum.
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah.
Mayor, Councilman, the county has said that we may limit the number of licenses within Otter Tail County to 5. We've also said that we allow local jurisdictions to establish their own cannabis ordinance, which Fergus Falls has. So Fergus Falls has 2 or 3, even though it's their own separate ordinance. We could use that as part of our 5 if we chose to. To answer your question.
Yeah.
And that's proposed, is it a guideline or is it
It's in our
actual?
cannabis ordinance. You can look at.
Pardon?
It's in our cannabis ordinance.
So 5.
Mm-hmm.
I missed it by
We may
1.
limit it to 5. And that satisfies the 1 for every 12,500 people.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
So I think you just have to understand it's a minimum that we have to do. There is no maximum. And as a city, we have to do a minimum of 1, which the county can or do not have to include in theirs. They can add it above and beyond that 5.
Yeah, Mayor Hicks did a good interpretation of what's happening both at the state and the local levels. And just to reiterate, yes, the IUP process is strictly land use. So this is just saying that we recognize that this use, this retail cannabis use, is an allowable use in the B3 zone through an interim use permit. It's not going any further to say, and we have selected this business to be the one that is fulfilling that use. That's where the registration process is going to come in. So what has been proposed to you is a process that includes a period of information, like the city pushing out information about our registration process to ensure that any eligible parties are aware of the process. We would hope to begin receiving applications then based on that initial push out of information August 8th, and then we would spend a month collecting those applications. Then in September 9th through 10th, that would be time for city staff to ensure that all of the applications received are complete and that they are from an eligible business. And then following that initial review and making sure that eligibility is there, then the council would begin review of those registration applications. It would come to you essentially in a regular council packet. You would have time to review before a council meeting. We would suggest going over the process itself at a committee of the whole in between your review and the approval process, and then at a regular meeting of the city council, you would approve at least one registration and up to 2.
Laurel?
Thank you for this. I think it's very comprehensive and helpful. I think it's a good layout. One concern I have, it's my understanding the previous council, when looking at land use and things like that, kind of drew circles, I think it's been said here, around the existing businesses, and we want to support our existing businesses. How, knowing that one may or may not have landed through that lottery, if we have an open and closed date for this, how does that impact when the next lottery is, if we still have one in that process? I don't want to put dates on something that automatically could put one of our local businesses out of the ability to apply.
Sure. Yeah, we've thought about that a little bit. One way that we could, I think, help make up for the fact that maybe timelines are different between businesses is to try to follow the state process as closely as possible. So the state did their final lottery for this year in July, or they did it, June 22nd was that final lottery. As Mayor Hicks said, we have not heard from one of our other applicants if they were successful in that lottery or not. My understanding is that lottery process does not reopen at the state level until possibly spring. So I think what we would propose is that our registration process itself would have a timeline on it. So we do this with building permits as well. You pull a building permit. If you have not started your building project within 6 months, then you need to come back and ask for a new permit. I think we would do something similar with our registration process. So depending on where somebody is in their licensing process with the state, if they haven't completed that process within 6 months, then that registration could come back to the city at a later date. It's not a perfect system to try to account for what's happening with the lottery system, but it is also a choice for an applicant to make to go through the lottery system versus going through an uncapped process. So we're trying to be as fair as we possibly can.
And also are getting calls almost weekly from other entities looking for information on this. So we just need to have a consistent message from the city with the timeline that was proposed. It gives everybody a fair shot.
Right.
Mike?
Well, I just want to make sure that I'm on the right page. We have an individual here that on Monday night will be applying for 112 Washington, right? Vido.
Yes.
And Vido is going to be a business owner in this community, right? Just like
Only
any
if
other
a
one.
registration is given.
If a registration is given.
Correct.
So she will have, or he or that group will have just as much opportunity as anybody else in the city to acquire this licensure. To do that. And then the city is really bound by one. Truly one. We hear 2, but they're bound by 1. So Vido could become that candidate, go through the process, and become the cannabis dispensary for the city.
That's accurate.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Scott?
In light of the timing question, one of the factors is this whole IUP thing. Don't we have to act on that within 60 days?
You do, yes.
So we can't just wait until next spring and then nitpick. I mean, we have to act on the IUP that's before us right now.
But the IUP is separate from the ability to operate.
So in essence, we could give 10 IUPs,
Yep.
but only 2 of them would probably ever
But
open.
we're only
One or
saying-
two.
Yeah, 1 or 2 licenses
Right.
we're going to give to a business to actually operate.
And there, Your Honor, there may be somebody, I don't know this and I don't believe this to be the case, but there may be somebody that found the appropriate zone that doesn't require an IUP. You know, if they have that location in hand, they could be part of this registration process and be completely off our radar at this point in time. I don't believe that to be the case, but it doesn't, like,
But it's
those two things
potentially,
aren't necessarily connected, the
yeah.
IUP and the license.
So I think the kind of the item is everybody happy with this timetable and all those applicants, whether it's 1 applicant or 10 applicants, will be coming back to this body to make the selection of to who you are going to award a license to.
I think it's fair. I think the timeline is fair. I appreciate the work that you've done on this because seems like it's pretty fluid and always changing from the state. So, and I would agree, with 6 months, if that application has been, brought forth, but yet no action has been taken from the applicant moving forward, then we would have to start that process over.
I would make a motion that we move this forward, allowing that timeline that have to be redone to whenever the next lottery is. Whatever that date is, we should give that person until that lottery.
Would somebody care to second that?
I thought that we were making a motion on whether to give this permit or not,
Do we need
not
to
the
make a motion
timeline.
for that, Drew?
We've passed over it.
No.
All right, gotcha.
Yeah,
That's
it's-
Monday, right?
That's Monday for the permit.
Okay.
But this is
Registration.
about
Just
the
the
registration,
opposite, okay.
the registration.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you.
Can I have a
Can you tell me,
clarification?
yeah, can I get clarification on that motion?
Just,
I asked first.
Yes. I'm second,
My
two's a
deal-
bigger number.
My deal is to hold up till spring, if that's the case. Does that mean hold everybody else up?
no, license them. I mean, give them, they have to come back and renew it, kind of what Clara was talking about.
Yeah.
But
So
we don't know if
rather
that's
than
6
a-
months or 7 or 5, whatever that date of that next lottery might be.
But they could
Oh,
come back
yeah.
and we could have 2 of them done and that's 1 or 2.
Yeah. Yep.
And we could be done with it.
Right.
You know, so
Yes.
I don't know what the motion really is
Yeah, can I
for.
get a clarification on that motion?
I don't know, is the 6-month thing in here? That's where I was trying to get.
It's not in there
No.
at this point.
This is about opening up a period of time for registration and saying registration will be
Right.
from August 8th to September 8th. The staff will review 9 and 10. September 11th, all completed applications will come back in front of this body for this body to decide
Right.
whom they are going to issue licenses to.
I was just trying to encompass what you were saying.
Yeah, how about for Monday, I'll come with some proposed language that could be added into the policy and all of that that lays out the timeline for how long somebody can hold on to their registration before they can operate.
Makes sense.
I'll
I
talk
will
to the
amend my
state
motion to
before
that.
then
I'll
and-
amend my motion.
Right. Wait.
Go along.
Give me a.
Go for it. Yeah.
Emily McCune, co-owner of Sugar High. I do have a question, but a couple of statements as well. So just to kind of echo what Clara was saying, as far as the different license types, just to be triply sure that everybody understands. So Sugar High applied for a micro business license type, which is not capped and therefore not subject to the lottery. This does limit us to operating only one location versus a different license type, which is what Elevate applied for, which is called the retailer's license. And that enables them to open up to 5 locations, have an unlimited number of employees. So it's the people who they're taking a risk, but their reward may be better in revenue and success, right? Now, we didn't want to take that risk, okay? And what Clara was kind of speaking to is that regardless, that's the choice of the applicant. We need to establish a local registration process. The 6-month thing, I actually don't even know what you're talking about with that. But as far as this is my perspective on it. The council has enforced and imposed an ordinance that limits the issuance of these licenses to up to 2. So in the time being, for the time being, if there are more than 2, however many applicants come through between August 8th and September 8th, you're required to issue 1 and you can issue up to 2. If you were to issue up to 2, those would be the 2 operating businesses. Now, it's my understanding that Elevate did not get picked in the lottery, okay? And I'm sure that's catastrophically devastating news to that business, but that was the route they went with their options for license type. I know there are other applicants that are going to come in. If there are 2 issued, then we're good to go, we're flowing, we're transitioning. And it does seem kind of like SOL then for Elevate, but the thing, as I see it, what would have to happen is perhaps the council could revisit the number of licenses they want to issue, impose a new ordinance, but otherwise, that's just kind of the end of the road for that business, as I see it. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that. But I do have a question for probably Clara on the timeline. For September 15th council meeting, where presumably the decisions would be made, would as an applicant, would all of the materials that we would have submitted up to that point constitute our application? And if so, if the decision was to grant us a license at the September 15th meeting, would that take effect immediately? The reason I ask is because we don't expect product to be available till October due to the timeline of the issuance of cultivation, extraction, and manufacturing licenses. It takes 12 weeks to grow a plant from seed to sale. So they have to get lab testing facilities up and running and all that stuff. So the timeline is that October is the soonest that we would even be making sales. So I just had a clarification on that.
Yeah, we would, the way that I see it is that we would grant registration in the city of Fergus Falls contingent upon the finalization of your licensing process.
From the state.
From the state, yep. So the change that occurred starting July 1st from the last legislative session was that it clarified that a city could issue registrations before the full licensure is complete, which is why we're, kind of trying to get caught up with our registration process at this point.
And then the final would be coming from the state.
And the final licensure, yep. So you would be able to operate, you'd be registered within the city of Fergus Falls preliminarily.
Yep, potentially by September 15th.
Yep.
And then, okay, that's it. That's great. Thank you.
That's how I would see it.
Thank you for listening to that.
Right. Thank you, Emily. Right, with that, the motion then to bring this to the council as a discussion item on Monday night is on the table. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, same sign. Hearing none, the motion is approved. I do need to leave, so I will hand over the podium to my learned colleague, Ms. Job.
All right.
Thank you. I will see you shortly.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the De Lagoon Campground rates, and we are going to call on Mr. Taylor.
Thank you. Good morning. So just in the way of a short update on the De Lagoon project, it is substantially complete. There are some punch list items to take care of yet, but it's looking really good. There's grass that needs to mature and fill in, so we're waiting on that and looking at maybe a soft opening of the campground this fall, but most likely not opening until next year. Just for that grass to mature, we just know once traffic is on it and the grass gets trampled down, we'd never get it back. So the lighting project, you've heard some about the American Legion field. It's really good, well received. Yeah, it's really good quality lighting. The De Lagoon lighting, that's been in use for 2 seasons now, basically. That's really well received. Farmers Field now is just complete within the last 3 or 4 weeks, and that as well is really well received. And so with the campground being complete, all the lighting projects being complete, that $5.2 million project is for the most part done. So with that, you see the return on investment analysis that Bolton and Mink did. That was done on the total $5.2 million project. And you can see that in year 25, it starts actually making money. So the campground piece of it that we're going to talk about the rates here in a little bit, those rates and that specific facility probably would start making money sooner than the year 25. But it's a good thing. The project, unlike any of our other projects, will actually pay for itself in time. So with that, one last piece of the project would be the entrance road into the park. It's, I think, going to be a 2026 project to redo that road. Pretty much fell apart with all the equipment that was going in and out of the project or the park through the project process, and we've got a grant of some amount, 200 and some thousand, to partially cover that. It won't fully cover it, so we've got to look at other ways to fund the remaining balance. But with that road complete, everything else, it's going to be a really nice park. It's the campground in its primitive state prior was making money. It was probably $20,000 to $25,000 a year, and we had some basic electric service, water service, but very primitive. So now with the nice improvements, nice bath, shower facility, storm shelter, and all the electrical upgrades, I think it's going to be a widely used campground facility and a destination. We've got so many things going on out there with the BMX, softball, baseball, frisbee or disc golf. So there's a lot of attractions to that would bring campers to the site. So looking to see how popular that becomes, but have high hopes for it. So with the campground maybe opening, we need to set some rates. And I did look at some rates in the region, and so proposing these rates for the different sites. $25 a day for the 9 tent sites, $45 a day for the partial hookup sites that include water and electric, $50 a day for the full hookup sites, which includes water, sewer, and electric, and that's 10 sites. And then cancellation fee of $10 with a 7-day notice. Cancellation fee with less than a 7-day notice would be charged 1 day of their reservation. Off-season, proposing a rate of $25 a day, which would be electric only. We wouldn't have water turned on during those times, but April and October being off-season, having that $25 rate. And at this time, unless we get a real outpouring of requests for seasonal sites, we're not proposing any seasonal sites at this point. So with that, just proposing those rates and looking for your approval.
I'll offer that, Your Honor.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion,
Was that
questions?
compared with some of the other campgrounds?
Yes.
Is it
Yes, it was.
comparable?
Yep. Checked with quite a few different municipal facilities around the area, and well, I can think of Hutchinson, Sauk Center, Lum Park. I can't remember where that one is. But yes.
Are those ones that you checked with, are those fairly new, or if they've been established for a long time?
That I don't know. Tipsona actually, the most regional proximity to us, is actually higher than all the others that I looked at.
And a part hookup to a full hookup, what was it, $5 difference?
Yes.
Doesn't seem like enough, in my opinion, but.
Local expert on camping here suggested we suggested we go between 45 and 60, and landed on 50 just by comparing those other park rates.
Yeah.
I'll just, one thing, a guy did call and ask me, and I was camping a couple times just in July, and I paid $50 in Big Falls, which is a city campground, and $60 in Ash River, which is on Ash River, Lake Cabatogaman area. and that was for full hookup. And so when I was in Iowa last year, and I paid $50 for full hookups there at a state, brand new state campground, beautiful place. And so I feel we're right in there, and we can raise them if we have to, but I think we should just, that's not too cheap and it's not too expensive. I think it's a good place.
Are we setting for just this year, or are we setting for next year too? Both, in essence?
Yeah, both in essence, yes.
Okay. If we open this year.
Right.
Any
We
other
would-
questions?
Sorry, with that, we would look at, with all other fees, an adjustment maybe next year at about this time, when we look
I
at
was
all
just thinking
fees.
if we are on the lower end of the range, which I'm fine being, but if we have a road to pay for too, maybe upping at $5 makes sense to help offset that road cost.
I'll just make one. When you go to register for a campsite, you always ask for the sewer site, and you really don't care. If it's $5 or $10 more, you take that, because it saves you a lot of time, and it's a good thing. But it's $70 a week difference if it's $10. So, when I go personally, when I go to one, I want the best or the most hookups, because it just makes it easier for you to get rid of your stuff. So.
I think, people who, I'm not real familiar with camping. It's been a long time. But when you look at some of the campers or motorhomes, or what you want to use the term, I don't think $5-10 is going to make a bit of difference on what a motorhome costs. I mean, that's not what they're looking at, in my opinion. Maybe it's different, Scott, but I think that, if somebody said, hey, I can have my full hookup for another $10, yeah, that's nothing. So that's my opinion on that.
I can amend my motion to do $60 a day for full hookup.
And leave the
That's-
45?
If that's the wish, I will do either. I'm comfortable with either.
Your Honor, for clarification, Lynn, would you give me the rates again? $25 for a tent?
Yes, $25 for a tent site, $45 for a partial hookup site,
Which is?
water and
Water and
electric, and $50 for a full hookup site, water, sewer, and electric. And the tent sites do have water and electric.
Laurel, would you be willing to amend that to 50 and 60?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Thank you.
I don't know who seconded me, though.
Yep, Jim.
Yes.
Okay, so clarification, when you say 50 and 60, are you talking about partial hookup is
Right.
50?
Partial, yeah.
And then full hookup is 60?
Yep.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that I understood where we were at.
And one thing you'll know too, excuse me, if we have a soft opening, you'll know if people take the least hookup, the two water and sewer ones, then you'll know that's kind of more of a favorable thing. Because there's a dump station out there on the way out. I mean, it's not like you don't have a dump station, but, so it's well within the means, so.
Okay.
Couple
ahead.
other things to
Yep.
note that I forgot to mention. A bathroom storage facility will be getting built for the soccer complex. And there is a plan for reforestation of the campground area.
Nice. All right, all in favor? Say, go ahead.
Just one more question. I'm not a camper. The last time I camped was 1993 in a different place in the world. But I think explain to me, or the council, somebody explain to me why we wouldn't at least look at a seasonal, if we have a snowboard with a big unit coming in, to have a rate for that. And do we have a spot that, you could set aside 5 seasonals that's off from the rest of them, or is it not an option? I'm trying to learn here, because if I got, I don't know, is it, $1,000, $2,000? I have no idea what the cost would be for a seasonal, but if I've got 10 of them, 5 of them that want to come, and I turn them away, is it 10 grand, 15, 20 grand? And maybe this campground isn't for that, and it can't be for that, but I just need some clarification on the thought process of why it was there. And then the clarification, if you are going to do a seasonal or look at it next year, how are you going to be prepared to do that, or what's your process to let us know?
We would go with some seasonal sites based on request or demand. there are some sites that we could set aside to be seasonal sites. We definitely wouldn't pick the prime sites. There are a few out there that are going to be highly sought after with a nice lake view and whatever. But in looking at the different campsites that I did review, a lot of them do offer seasonal sites, and they're typically $2,500 to $2,800 a year. So, yeah, that would be a revenue source.
I'll step on that, yeah. So, I'm a member of the Elks Point, actually I'm running it this year, but it's $2,000 a year, but you have to be a member, and it's a whole different deal. But anywhere else you go, it's $3,500. Swan Lake, I believe, is $4,500 a year. And so when you step into of seasonal, you get guaranteed income, but you don't serve. When we talked about this in our meetings, so I was just about every meeting for this campground. I didn't want to go down the seasonal road because we're not going to serve our community for people coming and going, and different people visiting our town or baseball or whatever. So once you get into that seasonal thing, yeah, you got guaranteed income, and that's why we did it at Elks Point, for guaranteed income, because we have great bills out there, because we wouldn't have that. We weren't that busy at that time. This was 5 or 6 years ago. I think we went to it. So I'm strongly against seasonals. Once you get that in there, it just seems like once they start, they just keep coming. Pretty soon you're full, because you can guarantee income, and that's a good thing. But that campground was built to serve our community, not to serve 40 people or 15 more. That coming and going thing is what we kind of wanted to do, and get people coming to this town and staying here. So.
I would echo that. There was just an article, and I don't remember the source, so I apologize for that. Florida municipalities are starting to remove seasonal in some areas because they want that tourism. And so a lot of the Florida seasonal municipalities are starting to look at removing the seasonal aspect because they're missing out on that tourist dollar, and their campgrounds had become almost exclusively seasonal. So that's been in the news in the last couple months as well.
Yes, go ahead, Al.
Yeah, Len, you brought up a good subject that I'm glad you said it, as far as some sites are more preferred than others, or will be sought after. Maybe let's see how it goes this end of this year, first part of next, and maybe there could be another fee for having by the lake or lake view. It's no different than real estate, location, and people like location. So, that might be another source to let people be able to enjoy that, and the city get a little extra revenue.
Sure.
Thanks.
With that, kind of the same line too, some of the parks offered a reduced rate for Monday through Thursday camping, and they did charge higher on the weekend. Just, yeah, get those good spots.
Hotels do it.
Right.
All right, any other questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Your Honor, can I ask a D Lagoon question while he's up there?
Is this okay for the consent agenda on Monday?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yep, I'll give you a couple minutes.
It won't take that long. Got an email this morning, I don't know who else on the council got it, about concerns of the location of the gun range out there with all the activities going on at D Lagoon. I don't know much, if anything, about it, but wanting to ask if there are any safety concerns with the location of the gun range in D Lagoon, in relation to D Lagoon Park.
I don't think safety concerns, maybe noise concerns, but that was talked about in the planning of this, and to relocate that range would be problematic. The site cleanup with all the lead that's in the ground would be cost prohibitive.
And the other thing, Your Honor, is we have the safest men or women, whatever, running that operation or at that operation. And if you haven't been there, it's safe. It's really a good place. Now, I think that this is coming from maybe more of the noise, because it goes on until dark, sometimes, and a lot of people use it.
But mostly during the weekday.
Weekdays only, not on the weekends, yes. Right. But it gets used by how many other entities?
I think it's just Fergus and Otter Tail County.
I kind of thought he said Douglas too, but maybe not. But
they maybe bring others, and I don't know.
They're blowing a lot of ammunition, I can tell you that, because you can hear them out on the golf course on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Okay, we do have another item on the agenda, new business utility billing ordinance amendment, and I'm guessing that is you, Bill.
I believe so, and Andrew, pipe in as well, because you know the ordinance side better. But a couple weeks ago, I gave you an update. We showed you that flyer of what was going on with the utility bills. We are in the process this week of going live with that. And so that whole process of our current code includes that we give one freebie a year if you miss paying your bill or choose not to pay your bill on time. We don't penalize the first time. The new system cannot accommodate that. So now if you pay late, the penalty will go on. We need to change the code to do that. So since we're going live, we kind of want to get this done as soon as possible because penalties would go on after the 15th of the month, and therefore we thought, let's get this before the council on Monday. So Rolf is drafting some amendments to that will come out in your packet so you can see those. And then we just have a little bit of language to clean up about sewer service in there as well. We set sewer rates based on the winter months. We use January, February, March. Our code had even included November, December, January, February, March. We're bringing that down to January, February, March. That's how we've done it for decades. So let's just set that to what we're actually doing. It talked about a quarterly charge in here, that we're setting a quarterly charge because many years ago it was on a quarterly basis. We bill it out monthly. So we're just changing that to monthly as well. And then, yes, striking the words about the free penalty, or the first one. So you're going to see that in your packet. This is just a heads up today that that's coming. So Andrew, the action on Monday would be directing city attorney to draft that ordinance. He'll actually have it drafted later in the agenda. Would be a first reading then, could be, right? That's correct. So just an FYI, that'll be in your packet.
All right. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Yes.
This is not necessarily, thank you, Your Honor. Members, not necessarily an item, but just kind of a PSA I wanted to touch on. You'll notice in the handout that Clara did today, the redaction of phone numbers and email addresses. I don't know if everybody's seen, but earlier this week we were made aware of a scam that's going on. And one of our recent applicants, one of the new businesses to town, actually was a victim of this scam and ended up wiring a fairly significant amount of money to the bad actors in this case. And so we don't know if, they're using AI and scanning packets to get this contact information and creating very realistic invoices from the city, or if people are, seeking this information out and doing those by themselves. But we've heard from a number of recent applicants that they're utilizing the email addresses that are on file that we have through this process, creating fake invoices appearing to be from the city or the planning commission, and then asking them to wire permit fees to them. So a couple of things. One, you'll never get an invoice from the Fergus Falls Planning Commission. It'll be a fee that's discussed at the time of application. You'll pay it as part of that application process, and it'll be right here face-to-face at the city. And two, we never ask for payment via money wire. So if that should be a major red flag. But even some of our more local folks that have applied have received these attempts, and they said they're very realistic. So for a period of time, we're gonna redact this as we put it out in the internet. We'll have this information on file should anybody need it, but just want to try to get ahead of, if they're potentially using AI or some other mechanism to create or generate those fraudulent invoices and try to protect our prospective businesses and those that are doing business with the city. So just a PSA.
I think, Andrew, one thing about it is that I seen the one letter or whatever, and the email address from the city, it looks so close. It's like 3 or 4 things off at the very end. So that's what really kind of got them, I think. So be careful to watch it.
Yeah, they're very good at what they do, and we all see it in our day-to-day work with other phishing scams. Unfortunately, they're using us as the attacker in this case. You just got to be careful. Double check the email address it's coming from. Don't click on any suspicious links or attachments. And it's always best practice to pick up the phone and call and make sure it's legitimate. So it'll happen, it happens, but anything we can do to help prevent it, that's the goal.
Mr. Bremseth, other than the 2 cannabis facilities, what other IUPs do we have in the city that they'd go after? And it was just IUPs, wasn't it?
No, Your Honor, Councilmember Mortensen, not just IUPs. The victim that fell for the scam was looking for, I believe, variance and conditional use permit recently. But we've also seen the attempts on IUP applicants as well. So I think it's anything that's going through the Planning Commission has more or less been targeted over the last handful of weeks or months.
Your Honor, with what happened with the city of St. Paul and the cyber attack yesterday, what things do we have in place from the city's perspective to handle things like that?
IT falls under Bill's department, so no, I don't know IT well enough to speak intelligently about that, but we certainly use the best technology available to us to help with cyber threats. Dan Knudsen, our IT manager, oversees all that.
And then the training that we have our people go through.
Yeah, we do a significant, it's very frequent that employees are notified to take training to identify this exact type of thing. Some of those things I just mentioned that you should look for or best practices. And that happens at least quarterly, if not every other month kind of thing. So we are trying to protect, obviously to the best of our ability, the information and resources that we host here at the city.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Couple of announcements before we adjourn for today. July 31st, which is going to be tomorrow, Dandelion Days downtown in support of mental health awareness. August 1st, so Friday, a reminder for the deadline for registration for National Night Out Block Party. Monday, August 4th, we do have a council work session here at 4:30 to work through TIF policy, and then our council meeting is at 5:30 that evening. And August 5th is the National Night Out. And then our next committee of the whole meeting is August 13th at 7 a.m. All right, we are adjourned for today. Thank you.